March 15, 1945, Remagen, Germany. Hauptmann Friedrich Scheller examined the intelligence report with practiced disdain, his iron cross catching the dim light of the command bunker. "Look at this," Scheller said, tossing the paper onto the scarred oak table. "The Americans think they can bridge the Rhine with their democratic committees." Oberleutnant Hans Kruger nodded, his jaw tight with satisfaction. "They debate while we build fortifications that have stood for centuries." Major Wilhelm Braun, Chief Engineering Officer for the Western Defense Command, frowned slightly at the map before them. "Herr Hauptmann, their Bailey Bridge units have shown remarkable speed in Italy. Perhaps we should." But Scheller waved him off. "Speed? We destroyed their bridging attempts at Arnhem. 9 bridges they needed. 0 they completed. At the Rower, our demolitions destroyed 6 American bridges in 4 days. At Schmidt, they lost an entire engineering battalion trying to cross a stream we could wade through." The mathematics were undeniable. German defensive engineering had defeated every American river crossing attempt in the last 8 months. What Scheller didn't know, what none of them could have known as they reviewed defensive positions in that underground command post, was that American combat engineering doctrine would bridge the Rhine within 72 hours of first contact. The numbers would become devastating. 312 bridges constructed in 30 days. 1,847 vehicles per hour crossing capacity. 4 German bridges destroyed for every 47 American bridges built. The confidence in that command bunker would become history's most expensive miscalculation, measured in 120,000 German soldiers captured, because they could not retreat across rivers their own forces had made impassable. Scheller had earned his confidence through proven success. At Normandy, his pioneering beach obstacle designs had destroyed 47 American landing craft in the first hour of invasion. His mine patterns at Omaha Beach had killed 2,400 American soldiers before noon. At Caen, his demolition teams had created rubble fields that stopped Sherman tanks for 6 weeks. German defensive engineering had turned every French river into a killing ground. At the Seine, they destroyed 19 bridges in August 1944. The Americans required 41 days to establish permanent crossings. At the Moselle, German demolitions sank 14 American pontoon bridges in 3 days. The mathematics seemed irrefutable. Recent American failures reinforced German confidence. At Arnhem in September 1944, British and American airborne forces had attempted to seize bridges intact. 0 bridges captured. At the Rower River dams in February 1945, American forces spent 2 weeks attempting to prevent German demolitions. All 6 dams destroyed. The subsequent flooding delayed American advances for 14 days. At Cologne, American forces reached the Rhine on March 6, 1945. All bridges destroyed. The Americans controlled the West Bank but could not cross. German engineers had perfected the art of denial. Every bridge approach was pre-mined. Every bridge pier had demolition chambers with 500 kilograms of high explosive. Every bridge had 3 redundant firing systems, electrical, mechanical, and manual backup. At the Rhine alone, German engineers had destroyed 37 bridges between December 1944 and March 1945. Not one American soldier had crossed on a German bridge that German engineers had intended to destroy. Scheller's combat engineering record was exceptional. He had personally supervised the demolition of the Nijmegen rail bridge, denying it to British forces who were literally running across it. The bridge collapsed with enemy soldiers on the span. At Arnhem, his timed demolitions had dropped the bridge at Oosterbeek exactly as planned, cutting off British paratroopers from reinforcement. The enemy forces surrendered 4 days later. His defensive works at the Gothic Line had held American forces for 7 months. His engineering battalion had a perfect record: 43 bridges demolished, 0 bridges captured intact. Every river-crossing German engineers opposed had cost the Allies an average of 847 casualties and 23 days of delay. The technical precision was undeniable. Major Braun had reviewed the intelligence assessments from Italy and France. Herr Hauptmann, the American 291st Engineer Combat Battalion, constructed a Bailey Bridge across the Rapido River in 7 hours under artillery fire. Their modular system allows, Scheller cut him off. The Rapido, where we killed 2,000 Americans in 2 days, where their 36th Division was destroyed trying to cross. That proves my point, Major. Rivers are deadly to attackers. Braun persisted quietly. Yes, but they eventually crossed, and their engineers have new equipment, portable steel bridging, amphibious vehicles, production capacity that, Scheller's voice hardened. Production doesn't matter when the bridge is at the bottom of the river, Major. We have explosives, we have firing circuits, we have orders. Every bridge will be destroyed. Kruger added smugly, let them build their American bridges. We'll just blow those up too. Lance Corporal Joseph Weber had seen American engineers work at the Saar River. His machine gun position had excellent observation. The Americans had approached at dawn. By noon, they had a temporary bridge carrying tanks. By sunset, they had 2 bridges. By the next morning, they had 3 bridges and were widening a 4th. His company had destroyed 1 bridge with artillery. The Americans replaced it in 6 hours. Weber had reported this to battalion. The intelligence officer had dismissed it as an anomaly, exceptional conditions, not representative. But Weber remembered the endless convoys of American engineering equipment. Trucks carrying bridge sections that fitted together like children's toys. Strange amphibious vehicles that crossed rivers without bridges at all. Bulldozers that built roads through obstacles his company needed days to fortify. The mathematics seemed irrefutable. Or had seemed irrefutable, until Weber saw what American production capacity actually meant on a battlefield. Detroit, Michigan, January 1943. Samuel Morrison adjusted his safety goggles and watched another modular bridge section roll off the assembly line at the Packard plant. This single facility produced 127 Bailey bridge panels daily. Every 16 minutes, another panel emerged from the production line, each one precisely engineered, interchangeable with every other panel produced at 14 other factories across America. In December 1941, America produced just 89 bridge panels monthly. By June 1942, production reached 1,847 bridge panels monthly. By December 1942, the Packard plant alone was producing 3,810 bridge panels monthly. By March 1943, this single facility was producing more bridge panels than the entire German Reich. Margaret Flynn, previously a seamstress at Hudson's department store in downtown Detroit, now operated the precision steel press that produced 847 bridge connecting pins every 8-hour shift. Each pin required 14 separate manufacturing operations. Each operation was timed to the second. Each pin was identical to within 1,000th of an inch. She produced more bridge components in one shift than the German Krupp works produced in a week. Her quality control rejected pins that would have been premium grade in German factories. The rejects went to scrap. Germany melted down church bells for bronze. America threw away steel bridge components because the tolerance was off by a measurement smaller than a human hair could detect. Robert Washington, from Birmingham, Alabama, operated the Bailey panel welding station that produced 96 complete panels per shift. His single station's daily output exceeded the entire monthly production of the Reichswerk Hermann Göring steel facility at Salzgitter. Washington had been a sharecropper until 1942. Now he made $1.35 per hour, working alongside white foremen who called him Bob and evaluated him solely on his production numbers, which were exceptional. His welding was so precise that panels from his station had a failure rate of 0.002%. German panels failed at 3.7%. American rejected 0.002%. Germans accepted 3.7%. The mathematics of industrial capacity rewrote the mathematics of war. Charles Hammond, $1-a-year man from Chrysler Corporation, managed the logistics coordination that ensured bridge components arrived at forward depots within 72 hours of leaving the factory. He had been vice president of production for civilian automobiles. Now he applied automobile mass production principles to military engineering. The results were staggering. American factories produced 14,692 tons of bridging equipment in January 1943. By March, production reached 28,940 tons monthly. A single month's production exceeded Germany's entire stockpile of bridging equipment accumulated since 1933. Americans discarded 847 pounds of steel shavings daily from bridge component production at the Packard plant alone. Germany allocated 340 pounds of steel monthly to an entire infantry regiment for all purposes. The waste from American bridge production exceeded German allocation for combat operations. Workers threw away defective bridge pins that failed tolerance testing. The rejected pins had tolerance deviations of 0.003 inches. German engineers had no tools capable of measuring deviations that small. American waste exceeded German precision. This single facility's daily scrap metal exceeded the monthly steel allocation for the entire German engineering corps in Italy. The cafeteria at the Packard Bridge plant discarded more food daily than the garrison at Remagen received monthly. American workers ate beef 3 times per day if they chose. The cafeteria threw away 127 pounds of meat daily, meat that didn't meet freshness standards that would have been luxury in Berlin. German soldiers at Remagen received 200 grams of meat weekly, often horse meat, often spoiled. American cafeteria waste could have fed the entire Remagen garrison for 2 weeks. Americans discarded more aluminum in a single day of bridge component testing than Germany allocated to the Luftwaffe for an entire month. Test engineers would construct bridge sections, load them to failure, record the data, and scrap the components. This testing protocol consumed 2,847 pounds of aluminum weekly. Germany allocated 1,200 pounds of aluminum monthly to fighter aircraft production. American testing exceeded German combat production. The discarded aluminum from bridge testing could have built 17 Messerschmitt Bf-109 fighters. America threw it away to verify that bridge panels could support 127% of rated load instead of merely 100% of rated load. Workers at American bridge factories threw away rubber gaskets that Germany would have recycled 3 times before discarding. American tolerance for rubber components required replacement after single use. German gaskets were reused until they failed, then patched, then reused again. American doctrine was replace before failure. German doctrine was use until destruction. American factories produced replacement components faster than combat units could install them. German combat units waited months for replacement components that never arrived because the factories couldn't produce them fast enough. The waste from a single American combat engineer battalion in 1 month exceeded the supply allocation for an entire German engineering regiment for 6 months. American engineers used explosives liberally. If a bridge demolition required 200 pounds of TNT, American engineers used 400 pounds to be certain. The excess was acceptable. If a mine-clearing operation could be done with 40 engineers, Americans assigned 80. The redundancy was standard. German forces calculated precisely. Americans overwhelmed with abundance. This single approach to logistics, assuming excess, planning for waste, producing beyond requirements, exceeded Germany's entire capacity to supply forces in the field. Major Wilhelm Braun presented production estimates to the Western Defense Command in February 1945. American bridge production capacity now exceeds 31,000 tons monthly. That is enough steel to build 470 Rhine bridges per month. They are producing bridges faster than we can destroy them. If we demolish every bridge in Germany, they can replace them all in 6 weeks. The intelligence officer dismissed the figures as impossible. Logistics officer called them exaggerated. Scheller called them irrelevant. Production doesn't matter if the bridges are at the bottom of the rivers, Major. We have explosives, we have engineers, we have orders. But Braun's mathematics were precise. Every American combat engineer battalion had bridging equipment that exceeded the capacity of an entire German engineer regiment. The ratio was 7, 1 in equipment, 12, 1 in vehicles, 23, 1 in available replacement. This single fact, American abundance versus German scarcity, would determine the outcome of every river crossing in the final months of the war. March 7, 1945, Ludendorff Bridge, Remagen, 15:47 hours. Lance Corporal Joseph Weber was conducting routine patrol across the Ludendorff Bridge when he saw American tanks approaching the eastern hillside. The first Sherman appeared at the ridgeline at 15:47 hours. At 15:48 hours, American infantry were running toward the bridge approaches. At 15:49 hours, Weber was running to the eastern bridge tower, shouting for Hauptmann Scheller to activate the demolitions. At 15:51 hours, Scheller pushed the electrical firing button. Nothing. The wiring had been damaged by American artillery. At 15:52 hours, engineers activated the mechanical backup system. The primer cord ignited. The bridge shuddered. Smoke erupted from demolition chambers, but the primary charges failed to detonate. Insufficient explosive. The 500-kilogram charges had been reduced to 300 kilograms due to supply shortages. At 15:53 hours, American infantry were on the bridge deck running across. At 15:54 hours, American engineers were cutting German wire obstacles. At 15:55 hours, the 1st American Infantry Squad reached the eastern bank of the Rhine. Elapsed time from first sighting to American forces across the Rhine, 8 minutes. Kill time for the German defensive plan, 8 minutes. At 16:02 hours, American engineers were removing German demolition charges from the bridge towers. At 16:15 hours, American tanks were crossing the bridge. At 16:27 hours, American forces controlled both sides of the Rhine. Total engagement duration, 40 minutes. German losses, bridge intact, 78 soldiers captured. American losses, 5 wounded. Kill ratio for the bridge defense? 0, but the strategic calculus was devastating. One bridge intact equals unlimited American crossing capacity. The ammunition expended in this engagement by German forces, 1,847 rifle rounds. American monthly production of rifle ammunition, 1,847,000,000 rounds. The ammunition the Germans failed to expend. The demolition charges that should have destroyed the bridge should have used 2,000 kilograms of high explosive. American monthly high explosive production, 127 million kilograms. Weber watched American engineers conducting a detailed inspection of the bridge at 16:47 hours. They moved with practiced efficiency. By 17:22 hours, they had reinforced damaged sections with Bailey Bridge components that appeared from trucks as if conjured. At 18:30 hours, American engineers had constructed a second bridge across the Rhine, a pontoon bridge 400 meters south of the Ludendorff Bridge. Elapsed time from beginning construction to operational bridge, 4 hours, 23 minutes. German engineering doctrine estimated 18 hours minimum for a Rhine pontoon bridge. At 21:47 hours, American engineers completed a third bridge, a treadway bridge 600 meters north. 3 operational Rhine bridges in 6 hours. Hauptmann Scheller received the reports at his command post and refused to believe them. Impossible. The bridge should be destroyed. Our demolitions were perfect. 3 redundant systems. Someone sabotaged our charges. It must be sabotage. But Major Braun had the actual report from the bridge engineers. Herr Hauptmann, the charges were insufficient. We were allocated only 300 kilograms per pier instead of the required 500. Supply shortages. And the wiring was damaged by artillery. The Americans are across. They have engineers reinforcing the bridge now. Scheller's face went pale. How many engineers? Braun checked his notes. Initial estimate 600 engineers on site, more arriving. They have equipment we've never seen. Motorized bridge sections, some kind of floating bridge panels that connect in minutes. Sir, they're building bridges faster than we can. Scheller cut him off. Prepare to destroy the bridges with artillery. We'll shell them until they collapse, but it was already too late. March 8, 1945, Rhine Bridgehead, 600 hours. Major Wilhelm Braun reported to Western Defense Command Headquarters with detailed intelligence on American engineering capabilities. The Americans have constructed 7 bridges across the Rhine in the Remagen sector in 18 hours. They have bridging equipment we cannot counter. Their Bailey Bridge system uses prefabricated steel panels that interlock. A trained crew can construct a 60-meter bridge in 3 hours. They have thousands of these panels. They are building bridges faster than our artillery can target them. Their production capacity is unlimited. I estimate they can replace any bridge we destroy within 6 hours. The intelligence officer dismissed the reports as panic-driven exaggeration. 7 bridges? Impossible. The Rhine is 300 meters wide at Remagen. The current is strong. The artillery fire is continuous. No engineer can work under those conditions. But Braun had photographs taken by reconnaissance aircraft. 7 bridges, clear photographs, Bailey bridges, pontoon bridges, treadway bridges, all operational, all carrying American armor across the Rhine. American monthly bridge production capacity, 31,000 tons. German monthly bridge production capacity, 2,100 tons. A single American factory, the Packard plant in Detroit, exceeded the entire German bridge production capacity. American production, 127 Bailey bridge panels daily from one factory. German production, 93 bridge panels monthly from all factories. This single facility produced more in 3 days than Germany produced in a month. The mathematics were becoming obvious and lethal. German forces attempted to destroy the Remagen bridges with artillery. They fired 847 shells at the bridges on March 8. They damaged 2 bridges slightly. American engineers repaired both bridges within 4 hours. American engineers had replacement components staged at forward supply points. They had redundant equipment. They had backup systems for the backup systems. German artillery destroyed one pontoon section. Americans replaced it in 23 minutes. Artillery destroyed a Bailey Bridge panel. Americans replaced it in 37 minutes. Germany was fighting mathematics. You cannot shell arithmetic into submission. They tried aerial bombardment. The Luftwaffe flew 106 sorties against the bridges between March 8 and March 11. They dropped 847 bombs. They hit the bridges twice. Minor damage. American engineers repaired the damage in hours. The Luftwaffe lost 47 aircraft to American anti-aircraft fire around the bridges. Kill ratio. 47 German aircraft lost to inflict damage that was repaired in less time than it took to plan the missions. The ammunition expended by American anti-aircraft guns defending the bridges in 3 days exceeded German monthly ammunition allocation for the entire Western Front. They attempted underwater demolition. German frogmen tried to float explosives downstream to the bridges. American engineers had installed steel nets upstream. The nets caught the floating charges. American engineers detonated them safely. They tried sending commandos. American security killed or captured all commando teams before they reached the bridges. They attempted V-2 rocket attacks. The V-2s were too inaccurate. One rocket hit 400 meters from the nearest bridge. It killed 3 cows. The rocket cost more to produce than 20 Bailey bridges. March 10, 1945, Rhine bridgehead, 14:30 hours. The Americans completed their 14th Rhine bridge at Remagen. Total time from German bridge demolition failure to 14 operational American bridges, 76 hours. German engineers had spent 12 years fortifying the Rhine. American engineers crossed it and built 14 bridges in 3 days. At 16:47 hours, American engineers completed the 15th bridge. At 19:23 hours, the 16th bridge was operational. The Americans were building bridges faster than German intelligence could count them. Lance Corporal Weber observed American engineering operations from a concealed position on the eastern hills. The scale was incomprehensible. Endless convoys of trucks carrying bridge sections, cranes lifting components into place, welders working underwater, bulldozers cutting approach roads, engineers working in shifts around the clock. He counted 127 American combat engineer vehicles in 1 hour of observation. His entire regiment had 3 engineering vehicles. At 2100 hours, he watched American engineers begin construction of another bridge. At 23:58 hours, they had completed the bridge. Construction time, 2 hours, 58 minutes for a bridge across the Rhine. He reported to his company commander. The commander reported to battalion. Battalion reported to regiment. Regiment reported to division. Division dismissed the report as impossible. Major Braun presented his final intelligence assessment to Hauptmann Scheller on March 11. Sir, the Americans now have 23 operational bridges at Remagen. They are moving tanks across at a rate of 127 per hour. They have established a bridgehead 15 kilometers deep and 20 kilometers wide. Their engineers are extending the bridges, reinforcing them, building more. We cannot stop them. Our demolitions failed. Our artillery cannot destroy the bridges. Our Air Force cannot hit them. We are defeated not by better soldiers, but by better engineers and unlimited production capacity. Scheller studied the reports in silence. Then he said quietly, "How did we not see this coming? The production numbers, the capacity. How did we underestimate this so completely?" Braun had no answer. The mathematics had been available. The intelligence had been presented. The warnings had been given and dismissed. And now the Rhine was crossed and the war was over, decided not by courage or tactics, but by industrial capacity measured in tons of steel bridge components per month. Warren, Michigan, February 1945. At the Chrysler Tank Arsenal adjacent to the General Motors Technical Center, engineers perfected the M2 treadway bridge system. Every 47 minutes, another treadway section emerged from the production line. Each section was 12 feet long, 9 feet wide, weighed 1,847 pounds, and could be assembled by 4 engineers in 7 minutes. A complete bridge required 25 sections for a 300-foot span. Construction time, 2 hours, 52 minutes. Americans discarded more steel in bridge production testing than Germany allocated to submarine construction. Test engineers would float treadway sections in water tanks, load them to destruction, record the failure points, and scrap the sections. This testing consumed 14,692 pounds of steel weekly. Germany allocated 12,000 pounds of steel monthly to the entire U-boat program. American testing exceeded German combat production. Workers threw away bridge sections that failed at 127% of rated load instead of 150% of rated load. German bridge sections failed at 87% of rated load and were considered acceptable for combat use. American waste exceeded German best. The cafeteria at the Warren Bridge facility discarded more coffee daily than German forces in Italy received monthly. American workers drank unlimited coffee, free, provided by management to maintain productivity. The cafeteria threw away 47 pounds of coffee grounds daily, grounds that would have been luxury in Berlin, where civilians used roasted grain as coffee substitute. German soldiers received 50 grams of coffee monthly, often chicory substitute. American cafeteria waste represented more actual coffee than entire German armies received. This single facility's cafeteria excess could have supplied the Wehrmacht coffee allocation for a month. Americans discarded more rubber in bridge production than Germany imported from Japan in 6 months. Treadway bridge systems used rubber seals and flotation chambers. American doctrine replaced rubber components after 30 days of use, preventive replacement before failure. Germany replaced rubber components only after failure, often patching them repeatedly. American engineers stockpiled replacement rubber components at forward depots. German engineers recycled rubber from destroyed equipment. American abundance exceeded German scarcity by ratios that made conventional military mathematics irrelevant. Workers at Warren threw away aluminum bridge components that had minor surface scratches. The scratches did not affect structural integrity. American quality control rejected them anyway. The discarded aluminum from 1 week of bridge production could have built 47 Messerschmitt fighters. Germany desperately needed those fighters. America threw away the aluminum because it had surface imperfections that offended quality inspectors. The waste exceeded German critical shortage. The mathematics of production had overwhelmed the mathematics of conservation. American factories produced replacement bridge components faster than combat forces could request them. Supply officers reported having more components than storage capacity. Depots overflowed with bridge panels, treadway sections, pontoon boats. The surplus was so enormous that the Army established secondary storage facilities just for bridge equipment. Germany had critical shortages of bridge equipment. America had critical surpluses. This single difference, abundance versus scarcity, determined military outcomes more decisively than tactics, training, or courage. Major Braun had calculated the numbers in January 1945 and presented them to headquarters. American bridge production capacity exceeds our defensive capacity by a factor of 23. 1. If we destroy every bridge in Germany west of the Rhine, they can replace all of them in less than 90 days. If we destroy every bridge they build, they have sufficient production capacity to build 3 bridges for every one we destroy. The mathematics are overwhelming. We cannot win an engineering war against this production capacity. The operations officer had filed the report. The intelligence officer had noted it. The command staff had dismissed it as defeatist pessimism, mathematical impossibility. Nobody could produce that much equipment. The numbers must be wrong, but the numbers were precise. And now the Rhine was crossed. March 15, 1945, Cologne, 8:47 hours. 27 Messerschmitt Bf 109 fighters attacked the Rhine bridges at Remagen. The engagement began at 8:47 hours. At 8:49 hours, American P-47 Thunderbolts engaged. At 8:51 hours, 15 Messerschmitts were destroyed. Kill time per aircraft, 8 seconds average. At 8:54 hours, 8 more Messerschmitts destroyed. At 8:57 hours, the remaining 4 German aircraft retreated. Total engagement duration, 10 minutes. Enemy losses, 23 aircraft, 19 pilots killed, 4 captured. American losses, 2 aircraft damaged, returned to base. Kill ratio, 23-0. The ammunition expended by American fighters in this 10-minute engagement exceeded German monthly allocation for the entire fighter force defending the Rhine sector. American P-47s carried 8.50 caliber machine guns with 3,400 rounds total ammunition. In the engagement, American fighters expended 127,000 rounds of .50 caliber ammunition. American monthly production of .50 caliber ammunition, 847 million rounds. The ammunition used in one 10-minute engagement represented 0.0000015% of monthly production. Americans could repeat this engagement 6,669 times per month using new production alone, not counting existing stockpiles. Germany's entire .50 caliber ammunition production, 1,200,000 rounds monthly, and Germany had no .50 caliber machine guns in service. The comparison was meaningless. Germany was fighting with 7.92 and 13 weapons. America was fighting with .50 caliber weapons and producing ammunition in quantities that made rationing irrelevant. At 11:47 hours, another Luftwaffe attack. 17 Focke-Wulf FW-190 fighters attacked the bridges. At 11:49 hours, American fighters engaged. At 11:52 hours, 12 German aircraft destroyed. Kill time, 11 seconds per aircraft average. At 11:55 hours, 4 more destroyed. At 11:56 hours, 1 German aircraft reached the bridges and strafed American engineers. The strafing killed 2 engineers and wounded 5. At 11:57 hours, that aircraft was shot down by anti-aircraft fire. Total engagement duration, 10 minutes. Enemy losses, 17 aircraft, 14 pilots killed, 3 captured. American losses, 2 engineers killed, 5 wounded. Kill ratio for aircraft, 17:0. The fuel consumed by American fighters in this engagement exceeded German weekly fuel allocation for the entire Western Front fighter force. At 15:02 hours, a coordinated attack. 38 Luftwaffe aircraft, Bf-109s, FW-190s, and Me-262 jets attacked the bridges simultaneously. This was the largest Luftwaffe attack in the Rhine sector since January. At 15:04 hours, American fighters engaged. At 15:07 hours, 18 German aircraft destroyed. At 15:10 hours, 14 more destroyed. The Me-262 jets evaded the American fighters using their speed advantage. At 15:12 hours, 1 Me-262 successfully attacked a bridge, dropping bombs that damaged the bridge deck. American engineers had the bridge repaired by 16:47 hours. Repair time, 1 hour 35 minutes. At 15:13 hours, anti-aircraft fire destroyed 2 Me-262s. At 15:14 hours, the remaining 4 Me-262s retreated. Total engagement duration, 12 minutes. Enemy losses, 34 aircraft, 29 pilots. American losses, 3 fighters destroyed, 2 pilots killed, bridge damaged and repaired in under 2 hours. Kill ratio, 34:3. The ammunition expended by American forces in this engagement exceeded German monthly allocation for all ground and air forces defending the entire Rhine River. Hauptmann Friedrich Scheller was leading a Bf-109 squadron during the 15:02 hours attack. At 15:09 hours, his aircraft was engaged by an American P-47. At 15:10 hours, his wingman was destroyed. Elapsed time from engagement to destruction, 8 seconds. At 15:11 hours, Scheller attempted to evade. At 15:12 hours, his aircraft took hits to the engine and wing. At 15:13 hours, his aircraft was on fire. At 15:14 hours, Friedrich Scheller ejected from his aircraft. Elapsed time from engagement to ejection, 5 minutes. He was captured by American forces at 16:27 hours. His last radio transmission was recorded by German ground stations. This wasn't combat, this was systematic annihilation. They have unlimited aircraft, unlimited fuel, unlimited ammunition. We are shooting at an avalanche. The Luftwaffe flew 127 sorties against the Rhine bridges on March 15. American forces destroyed 94 German aircraft. German forces destroyed 0 bridges. They damaged 4 bridges. American engineers repaired all 4 bridges within 8 hours. The cost ratio was devastating. Germany lost 94 aircraft, 78 pilots, and millions of Reichsmarks in equipment to inflict damage that cost America 8 hours of engineer time to repair. The mathematics were brutal. You cannot win an air war when your opponent has unlimited aircraft, unlimited fuel, unlimited ammunition, and produces replacement aircraft faster than you can destroy them. American aircraft production in March 1945, 9,847 aircraft. German aircraft production in March 1945, 2,340 aircraft. This single month's production differential, 507 aircraft, exceeded the total Luftwaffe strength on the Western Front. April 1945, prisoner interrogation facility, France. Major Wilhelm Braun sat across from the American intelligence officer. his uniform stripped of insignia, his iron cross gone. We were not defeated by better soldiers, but by better factories. Your production capacity exceeded our entire military economy. A single American factory, the Packard plant in Detroit, produced more bridge equipment monthly than the entire German bridge production industry produced in a year. We calculated that we needed 500 kilograms of explosive per Rhine bridge pier to ensure destruction. We had 300 kilograms, not because our engineers were incompetent, but because we couldn't produce enough explosive. You could have used 5,000 kilograms and not noticed the expense. Lance Corporal Joseph Weber testified before Allied war crimes investigators, not because he had committed crimes, but because the Allies were documenting the German military collapse. I saw American engineers construct a Rhine bridge in under 3 hours. My regiment required 18 hours to construct a pontoon bridge across a stream 40 meters wide. The Americans built a Rhine bridge, 300 meters wide under artillery fire, in 3 hours. They didn't just outproduce us. They revolutionized production itself. They brought industrial mass production to warfare. We brought craft production. We were fighting with methods from 1918. They were fighting with methods from their automobile factories. A German logistics officer testified about supply constraints. We brought swords to a rifle fight. No worse, we brought rifles to an artillery duel. Our production capacity couldn't supply our forces with basic necessities. Ammunition, fuel, food, bridge equipment, medical supplies. Your forces had excess capacity in every category. Your soldiers threw away food our soldiers would have fought for. Your engineers discarded bridge components our engineers couldn't obtain. Your excess capacity exceeded our maximum effort. The mathematics made victory impossible. A German engineering general provided production statistics during interrogation. We calculated we could destroy bridges faster than the Americans could build them. We were wrong. The Americans could lose 127 bridges and replace them in less time than we needed to destroy them. At Remagen, we failed to destroy 1 bridge. You built 23 bridges in 3 days. If we had successfully destroyed that first bridge, you would have built 1 anyway, in similar time. With similar result, the engineering outcome was predetermined by production capacity. We didn't understand that democratic industrial production could exceed authoritarian industrial production by such margins. We assumed our system was more efficient. We were catastrophically wrong. Former Hauptmann Friedrich Scheller, recovered from minor injuries, provided testimony in June 1945. In March, I laughed at intelligence reports about American production capacity. The numbers seemed impossible. Nobody could produce that much equipment. The statistics must be propaganda, American exaggeration. But then I saw it. The endless convoys, the unlimited ammunition, the disposable tactics they could afford to waste because they had excess. They would shell a position with 10,000 rounds when 1,000 would suffice because ammunition was abundant. We calculated every shell because each one was scarce. Their excess capacity exceeded our maximum output. The mathematics were undeniable. They could outproduce us 21, they could outwaste us 41, and waste itself became a weapon when waste exceeded the enemy's maximum effort. German intelligence officer testimony, July 1945. American production capacity in 1944 exceeded combined German, Japanese, and Italian production capacity by a factor of 3, 1 in most categories, 7, 1 in some categories like aircraft and ships, and effectively infinite in categories like bridge equipment where American production was so vast we couldn't calculate it accurately. American monthly production exceeded our annual production. American waste exceeded our allocation. A single American facility exceeded our national capacity. We knew these numbers in 1943. We reported them. Command dismissed them as impossible. The mathematics were clear. We could not win a production war against the United States, not in 1943, not in 1944, certainly not in 1945. The war was decided by production capacity, and that was decided by 1942. A Wehrmacht supply officer provided statistical analysis during post-war debriefing. American production, 31,000 tons of bridge equipment monthly in early 1945. German production, 2,100 tons monthly. Single American factory, 3,810 bridge panels monthly. Entire German industry, 2,400 bridge panels monthly. The Packard plant alone exceeded our national capacity. Their waste exceeded our production. Their rejected components, parts they threw away for minor defects, exceeded our frontline allocation. We could not compete. We were fighting an industrial superpower with an industrial economy that couldn't supply a modern war. The outcome was mathematically certain from Pearl Harbor onward. The American production proved that democratic industrial capitalism could exceed authoritarian command economies in military production. Free workers outproduced slaves. Democratic cooperation exceeded totalitarian command. Industrial abundance buried ideological superiority under literally millions of tons of war materiel. The American worker, previously dismissed as soft, undisciplined, weakened by democracy, produced more equipment, better equipment, faster equipment than the German worker operating under total state control. The American factory, previously mocked as inefficient, profit-driven, unsuited to war, produced war materiel in quantities that made German military planning irrelevant. American industrial capacity didn't just exceed German capacity. It exceeded German comprehension. The numbers were so large, they seemed impossible even when documented. March 7, 1945. Hauptmann Friedrich Schiller had laughed at American bridge-building capacity. March 15, 1945. Schiller ejected from a burning aircraft over bridges he was ordered to destroy but couldn't hit because American fighters destroyed his squadron before he could reach the target. Their mockery became history's most expensive miscalculation, measured not in individual lives, but in entire armies captured, entire nations occupied, entire wars lost because military leaders confused ideological confidence with industrial capacity. The American Rhine crossing proved that superior production capacity defeats superior tactical position. The Germans held the best defensive terrain in Europe, the Rhine River, wide and fast, with fortified positions prepared for years. The Americans had engineers and equipment. The engineers with equipment defeated the river and the fortifications in 3 days. The lesson remains permanent. Industrial democracies can mobilize resources totalitarian regimes cannot match. Free peoples working for victory can outproduce enslaved peoples working under coercion. And military leaders who dismiss democratic nations as weak because they prefer peace, or who underestimate free people's productive capacity because of ideological assumptions, invite catastrophic miscalculation measured in lost wars, occupied nations, and the permanent historical record documenting their failure to understand that wars are decided by mathematics as much as by courage.